Let's do this. Time to get the job done. Turn right. Get ready to turn left. Turn left. Get ready to turn left. Turn left. Stay left, and then turn left. Stay left, and then turn left. Turn left.
has different incentives. We've seen Chinese state-owned media, for example, call into question the security of using these chips. And from the perspective of the Chinese government, I think they're fixated not on access to U.S. technology, but on building their own semiconductor technology, the stuff that they've been doing for the past decade. And I don't think this decision is going to in any way reduce the Chinese government's effort to support the construction of the chip industry.
Let's talk about the construction of the high-end chip industry. How close is it to being as technologically advanced as the US industry?
It's still some ways behind, and the best evidence for that is that Chinese firms still prefer to buy even these 7-year-old NVIDIA chips versus their domestic competitors, GPUs that are produced by companies like Huawei. China's racing hard, trying to catch up with the combination of the skills of the leading U.S. chip designer.
China really mentioned it compares with the 100% tariffs on semiconductors President Trump announced. Details on those tax code scarce, but they add uncertainty for the electronics companies that use those chips and for the prices they charge. And let's remember here,
Stay right.
semiconductors are
Then exit right.
everything nowadays. Marketplace's Sabrina Benishore has more on how this is going to trickle through the supply chain.
Exit
DF
right.
Electronics makes circuit board assemblies in Cincinnati. Circuit board assemblies, think of circuit boards with all the little gizmos and things that turn it into finished electronic equipment. Ann Fine is vice president.
Our customers are original equipment manufacturers in various industries, from medical, we sell for commercial dryers, a variety of applications.
Finished circuit boards need chips, sometimes dozens of them. 100% tariffs on each little one would be a problem.
You know, you take a $6 chip and then all of a sudden it becomes $12, not to mention the 100% on all the penny parts and 30-cent parts and 60-cent parts, and it can get to be really impactful.
She worries that if these costs get passed along the supply chain, which she will definitely have to do, her customers won't buy as much because their customers won't buy as much. Adam Siegel is with the Council on Foreign Relations.
It's hard to see how prices are not going to go up across a whole range of consumer goods, big tech, cars.
For some goods like TVs, computer chips don't make up a big portion of the material costs, and your average consumer might not see a huge difference, says Chris Rogers, head of supply chain research at S&P Global Market Intelligence.
Where you might actually see a bigger impact is on some of the higher-end electronics devices, so things like servers used for artificial intelligence, electric vehicles.
The U.S. makes just a third of the chips we consume, according to Jason Miller, professor of supply chain management at the University of Michigan.
Our existing productive capacity in no way, shape, or form can meet domestic demand needs.
While that changes, if that changes, we'd be stuck with higher prices. There are tariff exceptions for semiconductor manufacturers who build in the U.S., but despite promises by some chip makers, it is a tall order. And he says even if some semiconductor production does move here to avoid tariffs, prices would still go up because it's more expensive to make them here. In New York, I'm Sabrina Benishore for Marketplace.
Big economic data point of the week comes tomorrow, the July Consumer Price Index, courtesy of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 2.7% was the June reading. That is the annual increase in prices over a year ago. Best guesses are it's going to be up just another tetch for last month. But here's the thing, that headline number, that's what's called the All Items Index. Inflation is, by definition, a general increase in the overall price level across an economy. But prices, as we all know, don't move in lockstep. And as Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman reports now from Portland, Oregon, some goods and services have stagnated or even gotten cheaper over the past 5 or 6 years.
I was in my local bookstore, Literary Arts, recently, and being a Marketplace reporter, I struck up a conversation with the lead book buyer, Alex Abraham, about the prices of things and how they've been changing.
What gets me, I used to really reliably be able to find them, 12, even 15 I've seen. That's just sad.
And before long, they agreed to play a little game, guess the inflation rate, starting with books.
definitely prices have gone up, I would say by margins of a few dollars, which I do work in books, so math is not my forte.
In fact, book prices have risen 6% over the last 6 years. And what about the inflation rate since 2019 overall?
Maybe 10%? I can't tell from your facial expression if that's way off.
I'll try to not give it away. Do you think toys are more expensive?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. How about computers?
I imagine the prices have gone up.
Okay, how about airfare?
I was just traveling cross-country flight under $400. If you were to tell me that airfare has actually gone down since 2019, I wouldn't be surprised.
In case you were trying to follow along, here are the answers. Prices overall since June 2019 up a whopping 26%. But toys, they're down 9%. Computers are 7.5% cheaper. Airfares, Abraham got that one about right, 8% lower than before the pandemic. So what's more expensive?
Groceries, food products, automobiles.
Rohit Tripathi analyzes supply chains at Greenlex Solutions. Food and car prices are up 20 to more than 30% since 2019. Other necessities like rent, insurance, funeral expenses are all up sharply as well. But, says Tripathi,
inflation isn't a blanket that you can apply across all categories of goods. And in some cases, we've seen prices come down. Computers, televisions, home office furniture.
In fact, many discretionary consumer goods have seen very little inflation. Prices for clothing, footwear, sporting goods have only risen in the mid-single digits since 2019. That's even less than the feds from Asia, where a lot of cheap products like clothes and toys come from. So what's next for inflation dynamics in the U.S. economy? Tariffs. In particular, on many of the discretionary goods that have fallen or stagnated in price over the last 5 to 6 years, like clothing, footwear, appliances, tech gadgets. Ernie Tedeschi is Director of Economics at the Yale Budget Lab.
Other than electronics, apparel is the most sensitive imported good to the tariffs we have put in place.
Those products have slim profit margins, making it hard for foreign producers and U.S. retailers to absorb the additional costs of tariffs, so they're more likely to pass them on to consumers. Estimating the impact of all the tariffs President Trump has imposed so far, Tedeschi says,
if consumers bore the entirety of the tariff, prices would go up 1.8% over the next 2 to 4 years.
Or an average of $2,400 per household per year. Climate Department for Marketplace.
Turn left.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance, providing direct car insurance rates side by side with other insurance carriers. Customers can see rates and find an option that works for their needs. Now that's Progressive. Learn more at progressive.com. And by Commvault, helping companies discover the minimum data, apps, and functionality they need to remain viable and stay in business after an attack, so they can become a continuous business.
This final note on the way out today, in which once again the entire global economy doesn't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. Tomorrow, we had been told, was the drop-dead deadline for the expiration of the 90-day tariff truce with China. You know where this is going, right? President Trump said today the new actual deadline is November the 9th. We will be here for that. Amir Babawe, Caitlin Esch, John Gordon, Oya Carr, Amanda Petra, and Stephanie Seek are the Marketplace editing staff. Kelly Silvera is the news director. And I'm Kai Rizdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
WNYC is supported by HSS, ranked the #1 hospital in the nation in orthopedics by U.S. News & World Report for 16 years in a row, providing spine care for over 160 years. HSS uses advanced diagnostics, minimally invasive techniques, and tailored rehab plans, focusing on personalized treatment options to get patients moving again. Choose better, move better. Most major insurance plans accepted. Appointments at hss.edu/spine.
It's WNYC. WNYC. Good evening to you. Coming up on 93.9 FM and AM 820, it is All Things Considered. At 8 o'clock, it's On Point. Radiolab is at 9. On Radiolab tonight, the show's going to tag along with editor Alex Neeson as she searches for answers about where her name came from. Is a name something whose weight you have to shed, or is it the only path forward into the future? That's Radiolab. It's at 9 o'clock tonight, right here on WNYC. 81 degrees right now in New York City. We're going to see lows tonight in the upper 60s. It's going to get even hotter through the rest of the week, so buckle up. It's WNYC, 7 p.m.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM New York.
European Union foreign ministers meet ahead of Friday's Trump-Putin talks in Alaska, with Brussels insisting that any peace deal must include Ukraine. Good evening, I'm Sean Carlson, and this is All Things Considered. It's on WNYC. Also coming up, President Trump says he's deploying hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor.
But the latest official figures show that crime rates have fallen dramatically in D.C. We'll get the details. And later, it's been 15 years since New York City started using that letter grading system for restaurants. We're going to check in with the city's Deputy Health Commissioner on how it's going. We'll have all that and more this hour. Stay with us. News headlines are next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian leader Vladimir Putin has no intention of ending the war in Ukraine. NPR's Greg Myrie reports that many Ukrainians are wary about Friday's summit between Putin and President Trump.
The statement came during the Ukrainian leader's nightly address. Putin may be talking about peace, but, says Zelensky, the Russian leader is planning for more war. Ukraine's president said he met with military commanders and concluded that Putin is, quote, certainly not getting ready for a ceasefire or an end to the war. He added that Putin sees his summit with Trump in Alaska as a personal victory, but does not expect him to change his approach to Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine continue to exchange fire in the run-up to the summit. Zelensky has not been invited, and many Ukrainians worry the country will be presented with a proposal in which it had no input. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Kyiv.
A targeted Israeli airstrike has killed Gaza's most famous television journalist, Anas al-Sharif, and 5 other journalists, most of them working with Al Jazeera. Israel accused al-Sharif 10 months ago of working to promote Hamas propaganda and says it has proof al-Sharif worked with Hamas. The Committee to Protect Journalists called Israel's allegations unsubstantiated and says the military has killed nearly 200 Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Texas House Democrats are still out of the state for a second week on a quorum break, protesting a Republican redistricting plan they say is meant to help President Trump. The Texas Newsroom's Blaze Gainey has more.
During this quorum break, Republican Governor Greg Abbott has issued arrest warrants for Texas Democrats and asked the court to remove Minority Leader Gene Wu from office. Abbott says if they don't return before the special session ends, he'll just call another. Wu says Democrats would gladly come back if the agenda was solely focused on flood recovery.
We're hoping that the next special session does not also have to be corrupt.
Flood-related bills are technically on the call, but Democrats say Republicans are fast-tracking redistricting instead of addressing damage from last month's deadly Hill Country flood. For NPR News, I'm Blaze Gainey in Austin.
President Trump today announced plans to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops on the streets of the nation's capital to fight crime. Trump said he was declaring a public safety emergency and his administration would be removing homeless encampments. Jan Wiegans of homeless advocacy group Shepherd's Table commented.
Being criminalized because of that kind of situation makes it even much worse for not only for the people themselves who are experiencing it, but also for the community as a whole.
Trump is activating 800 National Guardsmen for Washington, D.C. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 200, the NASDAQ off 64 points. This is NPR.
And it's on WNYC New York. I'm Sean Carlson. It's 81 degrees at 7:04. Mayoral candidate Andrew Cuomo is proposing a new law that would change how rent-stabilized apartments work. WNYC's David Grant is with us.
Cuomo calls it Zoran's Law, after Democratic nominee for mayor Zoran
Stay
Mamdani.
left.
Mamdani earns about $140,000 and lives in a $2,300 a month rent-stabilized apartment. Cuomo says that's not fair. His proposal would require income checks for the city's million rent-stabilized apartments and lock out many middle-income and wealthy renters. But housing experts from NYU's Furman Center and the Community Service Society say Cuomo's plan would just add needless bureaucracy. They say the real solution is creating more affordable housing.
The EPA is terminating contracts with its union. In a memo to staff, the agency says that it was following an executive order issued in March that bans collective bargaining. President Trump cites national security concerns as a reason for the move. Union officials say it stands to affect more than 600 employees in the New York City area. In April, the American Federation of Government Employees filed a lawsuit to block the ban, but a federal court upheld the president's actions. Last month, the agency also placed more than 100 employees on leave for protesting EPA policies, some of which were in our area. The union says it will fight the decision. The PATH train is closing its Hoboken station. Vaults have forced PATH to run slower rush hour service. The PATH is offering several alternatives, $30 ferry service to Manhattan and free shuttle buses to the Newport and Exchange stations. Riders can also use the PATH card to get transit trains between Hoboken and New York Penn Station. Normal rush hour service station reopens the Tuesday after. Well, right now it's still pretty warm outside, 81 degrees, but it's going to get pretty pleasant temperature-wise tonight. Lows in the upper 60s. We're under an air quality alert until 11 p.m. That due to ground-level ozone that's in higher levels today. For tomorrow, it'll be sunny but hotter, high around 90 degrees in the afternoon. It'll be hotter on Wednesday. It's WNYC, Monday evening at 7:06.
Support for NPR comes from Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. President Trump says hundreds of National Guard troops will deploy here in Washington, D.C. He has also declared an emergency that allows him to temporarily seize control of the capital city police department. Local officials are furious. Trump says these moves are needed to stop crime, but federal data show that crime has been dropping. NPR's Brian Mann joins us now. At the press conference today, Trump was joined by other top officials, including the Defense Secretary and the Attorney General. What did they say?
Well, Trump made the case that this cabinet officials backing up on this. That Washington, D.C. is a lawless, deadly place. They said under federal control, law enforcement in Washington would be far more aggressive. They said they're comfortable using military troops if necessary to target gangs and main offenders. And Trump himself made it clear he's sending a signal with these actions to other major cities around the U.S. led by Democratic leaders.
Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up.
Now, what's remarkable here is that Trump's narrative is flatly contradicted by local and federal crime data that shows Washington, D.C. is much safer than it used to be. It's also contradicted by the lived experience. There is crime, of course, in Washington, but this is a peaceful city. It's filled with tourists, far from the dystopian portrait that Trump painted today.
As we said, local officials are not happy. What did D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser have to say about this?
Yeah, it was interesting. She made it clear she believes Trump does have the authority to take at least temporary control of the police. The law seems to suggest he can do this for 30 days unless Congress intervenes. Bowser described Trump's decision to wield this presidential authority as subjective. She said she's trying to figure out exactly how it's all going to work. And she also voiced a warning.
I have reached out to Attorney General Bondi and hope to schedule a meeting soon. My message to residents is this. We know that access to our democracy is tenuous.
Bowser said what she means there is that Washington doesn't have statehood. That means the city and its residents are vulnerable to Trump's power.
August in D.C. is famously when lawmakers leave and school tourist groups arrive. What are you hearing from the people you talk to out around town today?
Well, you know, Ari, this is a very democratic city. A lot of the people I've been talking to are shocked and dismayed by this. I spoke with Ashwin Narayan, a freelance IT worker, who says he sometimes works for
début
Il joue très bien défensivement, il peut jouer n'importe où. Puis là, tu as des joueurs, tu parlais de Béchette, Guerrero, c'est eux les deux vedettes de l'équipe. C'est un choix de première ronde ou deuxième ronde en Béchette, un gros choix au repêchage au niveau international de Guerrero, à qui on a donné 5 millions quand il avait 16 ans. Tu ajoutes le vétéran Springer, il a eu des bonnes années, des blessures cette année, sa dernière année de contrat, il est là. Le receveur Alejandro Kirk a eu un contrat à long terme de 5 ans.
Qu'il mérite d'ailleurs.
Il mérite pas à peu près parce qu'il frappe 300 dans un monde où on ne frappe plus 300 à Louis le baseball majeur, c'est très peu. Puis c'est des retraits difficiles et tu commences à croire en tes moyens. Puis là, des ajouts avec certains releveurs de premier plan qui peuvent venir aider les Hoffman, les Rodriguez et cette gang-là. Ben là, ça te fait croire. Là, tu regardes comment les Yankees jouent, tu regardes comment Tampa joue. Oups, il faut que tu fasses attention, les Red Sox jouent très bien. On est loin d'une place assurée, mais ils sont très bien placés pour compétitionner dans les 40-42 dernières parties pour se préparer en fonction de c'est qui va être nos 26 meilleurs joueurs pour gagner une série après saison. Parce qu'on sait que les dernières années, à part l'année passée, ils ont été dans les séries, mais je pense que les 3 dernières fois, c'est rapidement deux défaites. On est parti. Tu n'as jamais eu la chance d'aller un peu plus loin, mais cette année, tu regardes la Ligue américaine, il y a des bonnes équipes, là. Houston, Détroit, Seattle qui s'en vient, Texas, les Blaze, on a balayé en fin de semaine, allait très bien jusqu'à ce moment-là. Mais tu regardes l'alignement des Jays, ils peuvent maintenant compétitionner avec n'importe qui d'ici la fin de la saison.
Et d'ailleurs, je regarde ça, là, tu parlais de statistiques, il y a tellement de statistiques qui peuvent être concluantes, qui peuvent être importantes dans le baseball, mais 2 statistiques importantes pour moi. Dans les matchs, en 8e manche et plus, ils ont l'une des meilleures fiches dans le baseball majeur pour revenir de l'arrière. Et l'autre statistique aussi, c'est dans affronter des équipes qui jouent pour 500 et plus, ils ont la 2e meilleure fiche au baseball. Alors, c'est pas comme s'ils réussissent ils font juste battre les mauvaises équipes, là. Au contraire, ils sont capables de battre de très, très bonnes équipes. Je sais pas si on rendus à combien de séries qui ont gagné depuis le début de la saison. Mais c'est le fun à voir. Puis on n'a même pas encore parlé de Bieber, le lanceur qu'ils sont allés chercher. Est-ce que ça va être, selon toi, un gars qui est capable de faire la différence?
Ben, c'est sûr que quand tu arrives, c'est un échange. Il était blessé. Il y a eu une coupe de départ dans les mineurs pour Cleveland pour May. Il y a eu un passage à vide. On l'a retiré de sa réputation. Là, à Toronto, je crois qu'il a lancé à Buffalo 1 ou 2 fois. L'autre qui veut avec Bieber, c'est qu'il lance en fin de saison, en septembre, les séries. Là. On s'en fout s'il en gagne 6 ou 7. On veut qu'il soit prêt à 100% dans les séries. Alors, c'est pour ça que c'est une acquisition clé qu'on n'en parlera peut-être pas, mais aussitôt que la fin de saison arrive, puis qu'il arrive à 90-95% de sa réputation, puis il est prêt à donner des manches de qualité, c'est tant mieux. Parce que là, t'as des gars, est-ce que Bassett va lancer dans les séries? C'est un gars qui manque pas de départ. Il y a déjà 20 ans de départ. Est-ce que ça va être Lauer? Et on sait que Berrios et Godwin, ce sont tes 2 gars de qualité. Si t'as Beaver qui peut te donner des manches, peut-être des 3-4. Si Scherzer peut t'en donner, ce que tu fais dans les séries, Louis, là, souvent, c'est que c'est, comme on dit, tout le monde, all hands on deck. Tout le monde est prêt. Ça me prend 6 lanceurs pour gagner une partie. Je vais le faire partant ou pas. Aujourd'hui, tu es en relève, tu nous donnes des manches. Alors, je pense que c'est une acquisition qui peut passer sous le radar parce qu'il est blessé, puis je sais pas. Mais la gang qui dirige les Jays arrive depuis les temps. Connaissent un peu la situation, connaissait Bieber. Puis là, c'est comme bon, on a vu qu'est-ce qu'il y avait avant. Il a été blessé, il y avait un contrat sur 2 ans à cause de sa blessure. Nous, on pense qu'il peut nous aider dans des moments clés qui s'en viennent en fin de saison. Et c'est la raison principale pourquoi ils sont allés chercher. Moi, je pense qu'on peut leur donner des manches. Est-ce que ça va être un départ de 7-8 manches? Non. Ça va être des manches de qualité.
Dernière question pour toi, Alex. Mason Fluhardy, je pense que c'est quelqu'un que tu as vu, mais de faire ce qu'il a fait hier, les buts sont remplis, tu as Shohei Ohtani au marbre, et ensuite de ça, tu as Mookie Betts. Je veux dire, ça prend du cran, ça prend de la confiance. Et lui a dit à un moment donné, je me suis même pas rendu compte de ce qui se passait. Et non seulement, il n'a pas été impressionné par le moment. Je veux dire, les Jays trouvent toutes sortes de façons de gagner. Et Fluhardy, est-ce que pour toi, c'est un joueur là, qui peut représenter un joueur d'impact, un joueur qui pourrait être un joueur important pour les années à venir pour cette équipe-là?
Ben, impact, c'est un gros mot, là, mais il y a déjà 45 parties dansées. Premièrement, ma réponse est je ne suis pas surpris. J'ai vu Mason pendant 3 ans à l'Université de Liberty. C'est un gaucher qui jouait pour eux.
Where Hamilton's had Bo the whole time at 6-3. Vernon's pretty much only at 1 loss. I think is why we're leaning that way. But you would pick with the Bo Levi. Of late, they're 6-1 in their last 7 games are the Hamilton Tiger-Cats.
Well, and the games they are losing, like they're close games.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and they put up points too, right? Like they could throw up some points there.
Highest scoring offense in the Canadian Football League, as we're talking to Belton Johnson, our game day analyst here on the Green Zone, ahead of what could be, well, I think is the game of the week in the CFL with the Riders and the Hamilton Tiger-Cats on Saturday. But overall, Belton, I know you were traveling. I was around, so I followed a lot of games on like social media and stuff. This past weekend of CFL football was unbelievable. Every single game came down to the last minute, if not the final seconds to decide. This was just the best week of football we've seen in the CFL in Week 10.
Absolutely it was, Jamie. And, I was keeping track of the games as well because, every team that I picked, they lost. And I was just thinking, like, man, they were all that close. And, I don't know what it was about this weekend, but some great football for sure.
That one stat, did you see that one stat about how these games finished? 56 seconds.
56 seconds.
Yeah.
That's a total time on the clock when the game was decided was 50, or the game-winning points were scored was 56 seconds. Two with zeros. Yeah. One with 15 and one with 41.
Getting ready to turn
I've been
checking Luke Wilson's Twitter all day to see if he's making any comments about that.
That's what makes good football, fellas, when it comes down to those last few seconds, right?
Okay, I'm interested on the hint for the tailgating tip with Sherwood Co-op this Saturday. It is an 11 a.m. beginning for the Green Zone game day. 11 a.m. pregame ahead of the 1 o'clock kickoff for the tailgating tip.
Jamie wants breakfast.
Is it breakfast? Is that the hint?
It'll be some breakfast food, Jamie.
Breakfast.
You can go any direction with that, right?
Bacon is a breakfast food.
That's right. Bacon is a breakfast.
We'll see what's coming our way on game day. Are you taking the Riders over the Tiger-Cats, or have you not made that decision yet?
I haven't made that decision yet, Jamie. I need a couple more days.
All right. We'll get, of course, Belton Johnson's prediction on Saturday ahead of kickoff. Belton,
this is a tougher week. Finding new
It is. I have to register my picks tonight. That is Belton Johnson, our game day analyst here on the Green Zone on this Monday. Of course, Belton and Darryl will join me in studio at 11 a.m. on Saturday ahead of the 1 o'clock kickoff with the Tiger-Cats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Wonder what our audience would pick. Who is the second best team? Hamilton or Calgary right now? I got Hamilton. Because they are 6-1 in their last.
Yes, I'm going to be swimming in the middle of it where I think it's only we're done this crossing.
Get ready to turn left. Turn left. Finally, we are in.